Ons volgende gas is in die ateljee. Ek's baie opgewonde. We don't get guest with this caliber if it's not for a book, because the business schedule must be absolutely crazy. CEO of Altron, Mteto Nyati. A big welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to say Afrox. I was going back to the beginning.
Yeah, it's so close. Even when I stand up, sometimes I come from Afrox. No, I correct myself.
Yeah, it happens quickly. I want to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Growing up, in what we call the old Transkei,
That's
with parents that was teachers, but also a mother that was at a business sense with the shop.
Yes.
But just give us a little bit of background, and I want to talk about the unique tribe, the Fingos, that you were part of. But just what do you remember from that time?
We were a very large family. My mother married to my dad, and when she married to my dad, she inherited additional 6 children. So basically, we were like 10 children within that family. Large family, although it was relatively middle class because both of them were teachers, because of the size, we really were struggling a little bit. That's when my mother decided to branch into starting up a business, and that's the business that we, meaning myself and the 3 other children, we grew up in that environment, supporting her, because I would say she was using us as like some kind of a cheap labor, but that helped us a lot in terms of shaping the values, the work ethic, the focus on customers, how to treat people, all of that for me, when I look back, that's where most of that I was guided largely by her.
And then your father's big dream, he wanted you to become a doctor. That was his big dream. Even on the way to university, he still tried to convince you. But you studied then mechanical engineering.
Yes.
I think you would be so proud to see where you are today. And luckily your daughter now is medical neuroscience in America studying that.
Wow. Yes.
So, but just that, for me, the difficulty, I mean, after studying in 1989, and I saw it in the book, is out of 163,800 professionals working in science and technology, only 1% were black people.
Black, yeah. It was really difficult getting into Natal University. We could not even, in fact, the first starting point is you had to apply to the minister to get permission to go and study in a white university. So that's the first thing. Then the next thing, when you are there, you're finding actually you are like 1, 2 or 3 of. In fact, there were only 3 black mechanical engineering students. It is only 1 in my class, which is myself, when I was graduating. Things were really, really difficult. Finding yourself in an environment where you are like the only one. But I must say that in my 3rd and 4th year, I could start to see how other students were reaching out. And in fact, we ended up being a very, very strong group of people that kind of like understood one another in our final year, which is really the thing that I like about South Africa, where people try to find one another. It's one thing, we may be coming from separate places, but we reach out and try to figure out things. And that's what I got out of Natal University.
From there, I mean, after starting at Afrox, and it's always what I've seen through the book, and I really want people to read this book, Betting on a Darkie. I was a bit scared using that word. For me, it was like, I won't tweet the word Darkie as a white guy. I think we're very sensitive these days.
You should stop being politically correct,
still politically correct.
No.
But that's what you said, like, while you were after Afrox, like something the biggest BEE deal at MTN. You said, as a country, we can do so much if we rise above petty differences and focus on what we share, our humanity. There's something, through all the difficulties, you didn't become a bitter man.
No.
We'll get into that later as well. You really want to build this country.
Yes. It is so important that we all reach out. In fact, for me, I'll go back to the Afrox days. I was the only black guy coming in an environment they did not know really what to do. I was like an experiment, They didn't know what to do. But there was this manager, his name is Neil Greenfield. He reached out to me, He brought me in. He could see that, I needed to be part of something, And he created a great environment for me to feel like I'm part of the team. That is so, so important in any environment. And that stayed with me, Hence, when I look at the things that drive me today, diversity and inclusion are so key, and that is what I see happening. That's what we need here in South Africa.
Definitely. Even going to IBM, walking in there, again, they don't know what to do with you. The guy gives you some account, a trouble account, thinking you're not going to make it anyway.
Yes.
And it was the SAPI account.
Yes.
And you turn that around into a 40 million deal, and it was a lot of money.
That was
those
a lot
days.
of money those days. In fact, that account was a dormant account, nobody, and they were owing us a lot of
12
money.
mil.
Yeah. So one had to kind of first go address some of those problems. Why were they not paying us? Go through all of that. As negative as that thing was, actually, out of the process of trying to understand what went wrong, I ended up understanding fully the IBM processes, which set me to be in a better position compared to my other colleagues, So that negative thing helped me to end up being in a better place, and from there, even the customer itself, the customer was very accommodative. That's another lesson here. People do not necessarily look at who you are. They look at the value that you are bringing. Once you are able to deliver the value, they look past any of these other prejudices, we may think they are looking at.
And then there was the change where you went from just mechanical engineer, understanding IT and ICT. I mean, it changed everything through IBM to a point where you became like the MD of Microsoft.
Yes.
That was huge.
Yeah. Coming from NAMPEC to an IBM, that was a big change because I was moving from being a pure engineer, and in getting into IBM, I was expected to be a sales guy. Honestly, being trained as an engineer, I kind of looked down upon the sales. Me doing sales, no. I was like, no. But now looking back, it's probably one of the most important skills to do sales. We are selling all the time. Whether you're in a sales role or not, whether you're trying to push an idea, you need to know how to sell. So that particular skill is something that I really hold dear.
The time that you lived overseas, in Paris, and I love the story with your wife Zuleka, just getting to know France, speaking French, and then your daughter, just getting into it. You had a support team with the family. You're close knit, and they fantastic.
That opportunity that we're given by IBM to go to Paris to work there. It was difficult because again you are moving into an unknown. You are people that do not quite know you, the languages, but all of that, it meant, when I look at it, the beauty is that it made us to be a very, very close family. We were traveling together over the weekends, we to go to the different countries, It made us to be a very, very strong family. And that's what you need as a leader. As a leader, when you come back home, you need that foundation, a very, very strong foundation. That's what I got.
Ons gaan nog verder gesels because I want to get to you after MTN. We're going to talk about MTN a bit.
Yes.
Walking into the white company, the Venters. And it is an amazing story, changing a white family business and just turning it around. There's a lot of questions still. Ons gesels met Mteto and Nyati, but I want to say, sir, I know he doesn't like that. Meneer, when even people work for him as a CEO, when they call him sir, he's uncomfortable. Reaching out to people, changing the workspace, changing history in South Africa. Small beginnings from Afrox and Nampak, going to IBM, Microsoft, MTN, and then today, Altron. We're going to get there now. Don't want to give away too much because I really want to motivate people to buy the book, Betting on a Darkie. The challenges, if we go MTN, that was a bit of a difficult... it was after the whole Nigerian deal.
Yes.
Walking into an environment that you're totally new in as a new CEO, and everyone at Ultron,
Yeah.
where they call you the axe.
Yeah.
You know, the people are immediately scared as a
Yes.
new guy walks in.
Yes, yes. Look, in MTN it was even worse.
Yeah.
Because you are being asked, go and think about it. We'd like you to take over as the CEO of MTN. Just think about it over the weekend and come back with a decision. At that time, you've got people, half of our employees are out in the street on strike. You know, so basically you have that situation, and they've been on strike for the last three months. And so that's what I walked in. I walked in that environment. But for me, when I look at that, it was quite simple. Your own employees, these are professionals going on strike. It says a lot about how you lead, you know, us as leaders. You know, clearly there's something not right that we have done. You know, so I looked at it and said, it's something that is solvable. Because it's something that is within our control, you know. So I walked in there and engaged with the staff and then realized that actually, you know, all people are looking for is to be respected. They're looking for to be informed. You know, they don't want decisions that they don't know where these decisions are coming from. In the current case of that strike, they were worried about their bonuses. They didn't know why they were not being paid bonuses. The business was not performing well. You know, it should never be a surprise when the business is not performing well. You need to be engaging with your staff. They need to know and help you to make sure that the business performs. When it doesn't, it should never be a surprise. In their case, it was, you know. So to me, all of those were pointing towards let's improve the way we're engaging with our employees. You know? So that's and we in a very short period of time we're able to turn things around there and start to focus on what matters, which was really, you know, the customer experience side, which was poor. You know, it was way below that one of Vodacom. We had to fix our entire network, you know, and we did that. And when we look at where they are now, they are regarded as the best network, largely because of the efforts that we took at that time. You know.
And now going to the Venters.
Yes.
I mean, this family business out of the heart of apartheid, 1965, started at Dr. Bill Venter and his sons. And it's the first time an outsider came in, but they were in trouble.
Yeah.
What was the share price yesterday? Was it at least 18?
Share price yesterday about 24 rand.
Oh, fantastic. And it was 4 rand at one stage.
Yeah.
How difficult was that? Because, I mean, people will even, I think black professionals thought, what are you doing? Go working for this white monopoly people. But what an experience and what a change you brought about.
Look, it was really, it was interesting in many ways, this decision. One is, it's not every day that a black guy gets asked to go and fix a white mess, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yes.
You know? Yeah. So just that alone, we are known for creating mess as black people. So now here is a black guy going asked to go and fix something there. That's a great opportunity. But the other bit is that, for me, we need all of the companies here. This thing of calling other companies, white monopoly companies, other things, something else, and let's destroy these companies. We have got a huge unemployment problem in this country.
Yes.
We need all companies helping address some of those challenges. You know, sitting with 29% of unemployment, and we say we need to be destroying some white monopoly companies and start up with no. We need everybody. So they have 8,500. We have 8,500 employees in our company. 70% of those employees are black. If that company goes down, you know, that's a huge number of people without jobs. So I looked at this as a challenge, saying, let's go and show that if we can run this company in a particular way, where people across races are working towards one key objective, we can be able to salvage this company and also showcase as an example of how other companies or even the country can be run, you know, and that is what we have managed to achieve largely.
Sure, and that's what you said. You said for you that is radical economic transformation, creating enterprises in new growth areas, not destroying existing ones.
Yes.
Quickly, politics. I mean, it's so interesting. You guys try to sell power tech transformers to a German company. Here comes Julius Malema and he says, expropriation without compensation, and you nearly lost that deal. But 800 people would have lost their work.
Yes.
And that's what these guys don't understand. I think, but if I say these guys, on both sides of the sector, talking war or whatever, don't realize that they're costing people their jobs by saying stupid things.
Yeah. So in fact, it was around November of 2017 where there was we managed to sell this company to SGB Smith, but of course with certain conditions, you know. And as we were working through those conditions, then there was this declaration that there was going to be expropriation of land without compensation. The Germans very clearly were nervous about this thing and felt, you know, what's next? If they're starting to take the land, what will be next? You know, why should we be going and invest here? And I can tell you, I don't think we were the only company that faced similar problems, you know, because of that, you know. And we are trying to create jobs here, you know. So the things that we say, we always need to be very, very careful because the impact of those things can be huge to our country, you know. And that is why I can see that the president has been able to come up with a reasonable approach to this land question, something that is going to be done within the constitutional framework, and that is what we need, and that is what made some of the investors much more comfortable. We cannot afford the chaos that happened in Zimbabwe here. You know, we need to build this country.
Yes. And then, if I made you Minister of Finance, what's the first things you start changing?
Look, as the Minister of Finance, there are so many things in this country that needs to be fixed. The first thing is you cannot try and do everything. You need to prioritize. What are the 4 things that we need to do? You know, and focus on those 4 things. You know, to me, for example, health,
yes.
education. Infrastructure, you know, building of infrastructure, it is so important. Today, many of our construction industries are going under because we are not spending on the infrastructure side, you know. And we need those companies. We need those civil engineers, architects. We cannot afford to have them leaving this country, moving to the Dubais, you know. So we need to spend on the infrastructure. And spend on the infrastructure side, we're also bringing help with the investment, you know. So education, health, infrastructure, and I would say that when it comes to the telecommunications space, right now we've got huge problems there where there's not enough clarity around the policy. You know, give out the spectrum so that we can drive down the cost of communication in this country.
And the most important, don't be a Greg. And I'm going to tell you that story. You have to read this book to find out. Don't be a Greg. That's a long story. You love comedy. You love you love stand-up comedians. I can just see with big functions. I wanna read 2 quotes. Your own quote, your favorite quote that says, the things you take for granted, someone else is praying for. And I think that only comes when you have seen suffering and you have seen how difficult it was where we're coming from as a country. And then someone else on your book, Bonang Mohale, said, God has given his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. So I think you living your calling. It's a privilege to have spoken to you. Going to motivate people to read your book, and definitely you changing South Africa day by day. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It was our pleasure.
Welkom by die Groot Ontbyt se YouTube kanaal. As jy dit nog nie gedoen het nie, maak seker jy teken aan deur op die rooi subscribe knoppie te druk. Yo, woo, woo.